Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. All together, please. Om Jnana Timarandasya Ganandana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yukta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Sabadutam Prajana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padang Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapcha Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavanishwari Vrishabhana Sutadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So, reading from Srimad Bhagavad-Gita, as it is. Translation and commentary, His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Today's verse number 1, Karma Yoga, chapter 3. So, I didn't bring my glasses, unfortunately. Can I borrow yours? These don't work. These, I can't read. Let me try it. Sorry. Maybe it was the hot season. Anybody else got reading glasses? No? Try those. I'm sorry.
No problem. We want the class to go.
Oh, these are good. Perfect. So we can pass these back to the gentleman. Thank you so much. Sorry for the inconvenience, whoever's they are. Yeah. Okay, Karma Yoga. Please repeat. Jayasi Chet Kamanaste Mata Buddhir Janadana Tat Kim Karmani Gore Mam Niyojasasi Keshava. Okay, please repeat. Arjuna Vacha. Arjuna said. Jayasi. Better. Chet. If. Karmana. Then fruitive action. Te. By you. Mata. Is considered. Buddhi. Intelligence. Janadana. O Krishna. Tat. Therefore. Kim. Why. Karmani. Inaction. Gore. Ghastly. Mam. May. Niyojayasi. You are engaging. Keshava. O Krishna. Translation Srila Prabhupada. Arjuna said, O Janardhan, O Keshava, Why do you want me to engage in this ghastly warfare if you think that intelligence is better than fruitive work? So, little confusing question. Arjuna said, O Janardhan, O Keshava, why do you want to engage me in this ghastly warfare if you think that intelligence is better than fruitive work? Purport Srila Prabhupada. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, has very elaborately described the constitution of the soul in the previous chapter, with a view to delivering his intimate friend Arjuna from the ocean of material grief. And the path of realization has been recommended, bhakti-yoga, or Krishna consciousness. Sometimes Krishna consciousness is misunderstood to be inertia, and one with such a misunderstanding often withdraws to a secluded place to become fully Krishna conscious by chanting the holy name of Lord Krishna. But without being trained in the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, it is not advisable to chant the holy name of Krishna in a secluded place where one may acquire only cheap adoration from the innocent public. Arjuna also thought that Krishna consciousness, or bhakti-yoga, or intelligence in spiritual advancement of knowledge, as something like retirement from active life and the practice of penance and austerity at a secluded place. In other words, he wanted to skillfully avoid the fighting by using Krishna consciousness as an excuse. But as a sincere student, he placed the matter before his master and questioned Krishna as to his best course of action. In answer, Lord Krishna elaborately explained Karma Yoga, or work in Krishna consciousness, in this third chapter. Mukam karochi vachalam pangam laite grim yad kripatamaham bande Shri Gurun Dinatarinam jayasi chet kamanaste mata buddhiye janadana tat kim karmani gore mam niyo jayasi Keshava. Arjuna said, O Janardhan, O Keshav, why do you want me to engage in this ghastly warfare if you think that intelligence is better than fruitive work? Yes, so Arjuna is equating fruitive work to the ghastly warfare. Right? So therefore I shouldn't do this because you're saying intelligence, buddhi, is better than karma. Well, not exactly. You see, in the text, intelligence, yes, is mentioned, but Krishna is not just teaching intelligence, because we are intelligent even in material life, material activity, with material goals. We use the intelligence. But Krishna is teaching bhakti-yoga, union yoga with the Supreme through intelligence. He is not just recommending buddhi. And very interestingly, in the purport, you see that? Yes. In other words, Arjuna, he wanted to skillfully avoid fighting by using Krishna consciousness as an excuse. And he was taking Krishna consciousness as this kind of buddhi. And buddhi meant I should not engage in this ghastly battle. And therefore, I don't have to fight. So Arjuna is still reluctant. And this is Yogamaya, of course, because Arjuna is a great devotee, but under Yogamaya, he is still being reluctant so that the Bhagavad-Gita can be brought out in full. If he had just said at the start of this chapter, oh yes, Krishna, I understand now, I'll fight in bhakti-yoga. No need to discuss any more. Then everything would be finished in 2 chapters. But Arjuna is, Krishna wants another 16 chapters. So Arjuna is still being a little reluctant, and Prabhupada very skillfully he's pointed out. In other words, he wanted to skillfully avoid fighting by using Krishna consciousness as an excuse. So he's being reluctant for the purpose of bringing out the summation of Vedic knowledge that is the Bhagavad-Gita. It is the Vedanta Sutra of the Mahabharata. The the Vedanta Sutra is conclusion of the Vedas, Veda Anta, but it is in a highly sutra form, compressed form. But this is more expanded. The Mahabharata is the Vedas it is the fifth Veda, Acharyas have explained. It is the expanded, illustrated form of the Vedas. So, yes, Buddhir. Now, today afternoon, I went back in earlier chapter to see where this buddhi comes. Because we've already discussed a number of times that many times bhakti-yoga is considered buddhi-yoga, particularly in the period of sadhana yoga. Bhakti sadhana can be split into two. Sadhana bhakti, which is comprised of two more divisions, Vaidhi bhakti and Rag bhakti. And then there is Bhava bhakti, which can be divided into Bhava bhakti and Prem bhakti. So in the higher stage, Bhava and Prem bhakti, one is spontaneously serving Krishna. He's in the purified, self-realized condition. The Swarup is manifest, and therefore there is no obstacle, there is no material conditioning to distract him from the service of Krishna. And therefore we find in the 8th chapter, after attaining me, those that are yogis in devotion never return to the material world. And then the same thing is there in the 4th chapter, Janma Kama Tame Divyam Evam Yo Vatitattvata. If you know Krishna in full, then you never take birth in the material world, because now you're free of Prakriti Stani Kashati, right? That famous verse, Mama Angsa Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. But what is the problem? Prakriti Stani Kashati. Because we are in the material body, and this material body is a manifestation of our material conditioning, then we're struggling. We're distracted from the spiritual platform. So therefore, and also because we're distracted and undeveloped spiritually, we have to perform sadhana bhakti, which is regulated activity. And the result, as we discussed last week, is that if you perform sadhana bhakti nicely, Vaidhi and Rag, then you will develop the desire to attain Krishna. So Buddhi Yoga means that I have a perception of the process. I have understood Sambandha Gyan, the relationships between Krishna and all his energies, and in between the energies. I have understood Bhakti Sadhana, which is Abhideya Tattva, and I've also understood Prayojan, the goal, to some extent. So I've applied my intelligence to the instructions of the Guru, and now, inspired by Sadhu Sangha, purified by sadhana, I am fixed in my attempt to overcome the material conditioning that is distracting me. So that is Buddhi Yoga. And Krishna says that, right? Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami Buddhi Yogam tam yenamam apayantasam. So sadhana bhakti means that you are worshipping pritipurvakam. you are cultivating affectionate mood. Because in the stage of Bhava Bhakta, Prem Bhakta, everyone is immersed in Priti Purvakam. Right? Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem, Sadhaka Banai, Shravanadi Sudha Chitte, Karideuda. So Nitya Krishna Prem is there. We have natural love and affection, but we have to cultivate that. And that is important. We've been discussing previous weeks about meditation, how we should smaranam, remove our focus from the griha, the material paraphernalia, remove our focus from the material body, remove our focus from the mind, and we should become atmastha. We should become situated in the self, in the soul. And then from that position, we should meditate on Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. But how should we meditate? Krishna explains that later. Throughout the Gita. Manmana, right? We fix the mind on Krishna, but how? Bhava mad bhakto, in a devotional way, in a favorable way. We don't meditate on Brahman thinking, I'm merging into it. We think, no, this is Krishna's Brahman effulgence. This is the effulgence of my dear Lord. We meditate on the Aishwarya aspect. Krishna is Paramatma. He is all the Mahavishnus. He's maintaining the whole creation. Isn't that wonderful? My Supreme Lord is wonderful. And then Bhagavan. Krishna is surrounded by beautiful devotees. He's performing amazing leela. He's playing the flute. And these ecstatic pastimes are expanding eternally. And actually that shows that Krishna consciousness is not inactivity, because we see in the 10th canto of Bhagavatam, we see in Govinda Lilamrita, we see in Krishna Bhavanamrita, we see the pastimes of Krishna explained. We don't find that people are in Golok and they're all vibrating like a tuning fork. No, they're performing activities. And these activities are in Dasya Bhav, Sakya Bhav, Vatsalya Bhav, Madhurya Bhav, and there's a great interchange of all the rasas. So Krishna consciousness in the perfected stage, in Prayojan Tattva, is the full activity of the soul. Sitting like a tuning fork is very boring, right? Just vibrating Om for eternity. That is not going to give you ras. But if you engage with Krishna in Priti Purvakam, in favorable mood, and that is Rupa Goswami is explaining that, right? That bhakti, what is it? Anukulyena Krishna Anushilanam. There's no attachment to a karmic fruit, no attachment to just gathering knowledge or becoming the supreme by merging. There is just a favorable mood. And that is the goal. There's nothing beyond that. To have Priti Purvakam, Krishna Prem, and reciprocate with Krishna and his devotees in loving mood. That is the stage of perfection. So it is beyond intelligence in a way. It is just spontaneous love. So sadhana bhakti, buddhi yoga, often is synonymous, because from the guru one learns the dashamula, he learns the tattva, and then he applies that as his goal. So Vaidhi Bhakti means rules and regulations. You should follow four regulative, you should chant, you should study the Bhagavatam. But you shouldn't, as Prabhupada explains in the purport there, you shouldn't unnecessarily or in an immature stage, give up your activities. There is that famous verse, I looked it up, when Lord Brahma offered prayers to Krishna after the cowherd boy Leela. This is 14th chapter, 10th canto, verse number 3. If you know, Lord Brahma was testing Krishna or giving chance to Krishna to show his potency. So he hid the cowherd boys. So then that's in the previous chapter, but in this chapter Lord Brahma offered wonderful prayers. Jnane prayashanam upadashya namanta eva jivanti sanmukhi mukha ritam bhavadi vartam stane stita shrutikatam tanuva manobir ye prayasho jito jito pi asi testri lokyam. So, translation, those who, even while remaining situated in their established social position, right? They remain, this is the important word. They remain in their material activity, but they throw away the process of speculative knowledge, that means gyan, and with their body, words and mind offer all respects to descriptions of your personality and activities. That means they become absorbed in a namam namaskuru. They become absorbed in a respectful oral reception of Krishna's Leela, dedicating their lives to these narrations, right? So this is the bhakta, this is the sadhaka bhakta. He dedicates his life to hearing Krishna Leela, which are vibrated by you personally and by your pure devotees. Certainly conquer your lordship, although you are otherwise unconquerable by anyone within the three worlds. So Krishna is a jita. He's never conquered. He never falls down. He's a chuta. But he's conquered how? Shravanadi Sude Chitte Kalide Udai. Nityasiddha Krishna Prem. It's awoken how? By Shravanadi, hearing and chanting the processes of bhakti. And then Kalide Udai. It naturally, spontaneously arises. So, remaining in their position, and if you remember in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the Kurma Brahmin, he met Mahaprabhu and he said, Mahaprabhu, I'm feeling ecstatic, what should I do now? Should I come and travel with you in South India? But Mahaprabhu said, no, go back to your village, teach the Srimad Bhagavatam, make a Nam hut, and chant the Hare Krishna mantra. He didn't say give up your position, but go back to your village and read the Bhagavatam and chant Hare Krishna, right? Just become absorbed in the Leela. And that is above Gyan, that is above Buddhi. So that is Sadhana Bhakti. So Vaidhi is to build a format where Rag can arise. Vaidhi Bhakti Rag. Rag means attraction. As we said before, in the 12th chapter, if you perform the regulative principles and sadhana bhakti, then you will get the desire, you will get Rag. So Rag means attraction. And then that will turn to Rati. Rati means attachment. So you become attracted to, say like in the material world, a young man, he's attracted to a girl. They get married and then they become attached. So attraction turns to attachment. So same thing in the process of bhakti. By hearing, we become attracted. Oh, Krishna's Leela is so beautiful. There is the Ras Leela and the Srimad Bhagavatam, all the wonderful Leela, Krishna with Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruva Maharaj, the Pandavas, the Ram Leela, so many beautiful Leelas, his discussions with Uddhava, his discussions with Arjuna. These are all very satisfying to the heart, and they're also satisfying to the intelligence, because there's no knowledge like this. So these become attractive. And then as one becomes purified, one becomes attached. So then bhava arises, ashakti tata bhavas. And bhavas turns to prema. And then one is spontaneously performing bhakti. So sadhana bhakti or buddhi yoga, it starts on the principle that I am not the body, right? Once you understand, as Krishna, that is the first point Krishna told Arjuna, that you're not the body, Arjuna. You're worrying about killing and all this and reactions and this, but you're not the body. You're the spirit soul. So, therefore, you should stop lamenting, as Prabhupada says, the grief. First he tells Arjuna that you are not the body. Then he tells Arjuna that actually you have got to do your duty, Arjuna. So that is karma, right? In Varnashram, there are certain types of personality and they all have a karma, and that is their dharma. Your karma means your established social position. Either you have a Shudra tendency or a Vaishya tendency or a Kshatriya tendency, or you have a Brahminical tendency. And Krishna later says, Tepi yanti param gatim. All of them, they can approach me. There's no restriction. The Brahmins, the Kshatriyas, they're supposed to be the leaders of society, very learned in the Vedas. But, like we said before, bhakti is predicated upon what? Affectionate feeling. Often the Brahmin, he can become a bit proud. Oh, I know Sanskrit and I know all the mudras and the yantras. And he can become a little puffed up and proud, thinking I'm superior. And the Kshatriya, Ishwara Bhav, he means the desire to control. The Kshatriya can start thinking, hey, I'm Bhagavan. I'm the supreme controller. But often the most fallen person, patita pavana hetu, those that don't have social position, those that don't have big education, there's 4 opulences, right? Janma, Aishwarya, Shruti, Shribir, that somebody may have a high birth in a big family or something. Shruti, then you get a good education. And then you can have material opulence. And then you can have physical beauty. So these are the 4 material intoxications. So people may have those, and they may think, oh, I'm superior. But Uddhava is told by Krishna, you must pay your obeisances to the hogs, camels and asses. You must have respect for everyone. And like we say, how can you have that necessary respect for all living entities? If you understand that they're not the body, if your vision, Pandita Samadashina, if you understand that they are spirit soul within the body, now because of their karma, they're men, women, children, old, young, smart, beautiful, rich, poor, whatever. But that is the cloud in the sky. Karma is temporary. It is compared to like a cloud in the sky. The whole material world there is the spiritual sky, but then there's a cloud. So in the cloud, oh, it's a flower. No, it's a tree. No, it's a horse. It's the place of illusion, but it's all temporary. Your man, woman, child, rich, poor, learned, whatever, materially speaking, but it's all just a cloud. The cloud appears and then it disappears. So we've had so many births. But we are considering the cloud reality. But why is the cloud not reality? Because it is temporary. It is temporary. Reality, and the reality is that everyone is a spirit soul. Mama angsha jiva loke. Everyone is a spirit soul. So when Krishna says you should respect everyone, how can we do it from a practical point of view? Not just a mental concoction, I must respect everyone. No, we can do it on the basis of understanding that everyone is an angsa, part of Krishna. Like we think, oh, Parasham, he's an expansion of Krishna, Shaktivesh, Vedas. But we're sitting next to expansions of Krishna. In this room here, you are all Vibhinangsa. You are all expansion, you are Jiva Shakti. You are all expansions of Krishna. So how we can have cultivate favorable mood to Krishna if we are unfavorable to his part and parcels? Because yes, we are Angsa of Krishna, the living entity, Achincha Beda Bade. The living entity is not only an Angsa, but he is also part of the absolute truth. Huh? Just like the finger is part of the body. So the Jiva is part of the absolute truth. So if you want to become a bhakta, you have to understand that everyone is a particle of Krishna. Of course, your bhajan goes to Krishna, Radha Krishna, the pure devotees, but we must have respect. And that is a practical idea. It is not just a mental concoction. So that is Buddhi Yoga. I'm understanding the right way to think on the basis of scriptural knowledge, by hearing from Guru, by hearing from Acharya, from hearing from the Shastra. Right? So, Buddhi Yoga means that, to gain spiritual knowledge. So, in number 38, this is where the idea of Krishna, in the second verse, you can look if you like, Krishna introduces bhakti-yoga. First he says you've got to do your duty, that is varnashram, you've got to do your karma. But then he transitions from karma to karma yoga, which will be fully explained in this chapter. So at number 38, the general principle is, do thou fight for the sake of fighting. Without considering happiness or distress, loss or gain, victory or defeat, and by so doing you shall never incur sin. So that, okay, then what's my inspiration to fight? So that's next verse. Thus far, I have described this knowledge to you through analytical study. Now listen as I explain it in terms of working without fruitive results. O son of Pritha, when you act in such knowledge, you can free yourself from the bondage of works. So if you look in the Sanskrit, Esa te bita sankhye buddhi yoge tva imam shrinu. Now hear from me how to perform these activities in Buddhi Yoga. So then, we'll read 40. Then Krishna says, in this endeavor there's no loss or diminution, and a little advancement on this path of yoga, Buddhi Yoga, a little advancement can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. Dangerous type of fear is to fall from human life into lower species, and become a zebra and be chased by lions for lifetimes. So, then again, you see, 41. Vyasmeka buddhir ekeha kurunandana. Those who are on this path of buddhir are resolute in purpose and their aim is one. O beloved child of the Kurus, the intelligence of those who are irresolute is many-branched. So the materialist is plying his intelligence in different directions, but the bhakti-yoga is, how am I going to hear and chant and awaken my bhava? Right, so that's 41. Now in 44, there's more mention, but we'll read 42, 43. Men of small knowledge are very attached to the flowery words of the Vedas, which recommend various fruitive activities for elevation to heavenly planets, result in good birth, power, and so forth. So that's karma. Perform good karma and you get punya. You get access to higher material birth. Being desirous of sense gratification and opulent life, they say that there is nothing more than this. So Krishna is starting to throw away punya karma. And then in number 44, Bhogeshwarya prashaktanam taya aprita chetasam vyasatmika buddhi samado na vihidyate. In the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, excuse me, and who are bewildered by such things, material piety, resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. So here, through the buddhi, which is the higher function of the mind, one can become resolute. Because having heard, I'm not the body, I'm eternal soul, and having understood that material life is temporary and unsatisfactory, one can then become resolute. I'm going for the spiritual result in my life. I'm not going to Swargaloka. I'm not trying to improve my material situation, because that's just a sashvatam. That's just temporary. I think it's this garland. So then Krishna in 45, yes. So buddhi is explained there as a way of fixing the mind. Through intelligence, buddhi controls the manas. The Vedas mainly deal with the subject of the three modes of material nature. O Arjuna, become transcendental to these three modes. Be free from all dualities and all anxieties for gain and safety, and be established in the self. So this is buddhi yoga, right? This is intelligent information. How to become mentally, intellectually renounced. All purposes served by a small well can at once be served by a great reservoir of water. Similarly, all purposes of the Vedas can be served to one who knows the purpose behind them. So what's the purpose of the Vedas? To know Krishna. Vedanta krit vedavid eva chaham. To know Krishna. You have a right to perform your prescribed duty. So you have a right to perform your karma, but you don't have, you're not entitled to the fruits of action, because I'm the creator. So the result of the activities that I have facilitated to you, they should come to me. Just like you may engage an architect to build a house, but after building it, he can't live there. It belongs to you. So Krishna is engaging all the living entities in certain activities, but they can't say, I'm God now and I'm the enjoyer. They still have to act under his direction. Never consider yourself the cause of the results of your activities. You're not the cause of the result. I'm bestowing everything. I'm the creator. And then what's that verse? Eko yoda dadati kamam. I'm fulfilling everyone's desire. Ye tamam prapanjante. And never be attached, however, to not doing your duty. So that was Arjuna's fault, right? I don't want to do my duty. It's not nice. Then 48. Yogasta kuru karmani sangam chakya dhananjaya siddha asiddhyo samo bhupa samantam yoga uchate. Perform your duty equiposed, Arjuna, abandoning all attachment to success or failure. Such equanimity is called yoga, right? So in yoga practice, and you read in the Gita, Krishna says, renounce the fruits of your activities. But that doesn't mean to say there will be no fruit, but that is not the inspiration. You're performing your Kshatriya duties not for your own satisfaction or your own elevation, but madhyaji, as an offering. Manmana bhavamad bhakto madhyaji. I'm performing all my activities as an offering. Now the fruit is there. I may be a doctor in a hospital and I'm serving my patients, but now I'm serving the patients nicely and as well as I can as an offering to the Supreme. That's my inspiration. Previously, my inspiration may be to get my salary and enjoy it with my family. But the salary is still there by grace of Krishna, but you're not performing inspired by the result or an attachment to the result, but rather you're performing the activity as an offering to Krishna. So it's a whole different mentality, and this is Buddha Yoga. So in the next verse, number 50, O Dhananjaya, keep all abominable activities far distant by devotional service. And you see that in 49, you see, it says Buddhi Yogat Dhananjaya. So again, Krishna is saying Buddhi Yoga. By this intelligent renunciation of attachment to the fruit, and instead acting as a servant, offering his work to his master, then you're becoming free. And that's Buddhi Yoga. You see, in the word for word, Buddhi Yogat, on the strength of Krishna consciousness. And then 52. A man engaged in devotional service rids himself of both good and bad reactions in this life. Therefore strive for yoga, which is the art of all work. By thus engaging in devotional service to the Lord, again in 51, Buddhi Yogat is there in the first line. Great sages and devotees free themselves from the results of work in the material world. In this way they become free from the cycle of birth and death and attain the state beyond all miseries, which is very applicable because Arjuna is in a miserable state. But everyone is like that. Everyone is under stress, struggling in the material energy. And then in 52 and 53, in 52, Buddhir, when your intelligence has passed out of the dense forest of delusion, you shall become indifferent to all that has been heard and all that is to be heard. Struti vipapanate yatastasyasi nishchalam samado. Then you'll enter into samadhi, because your fixation is not on material activity and fruits. Your fixation is in service attitude to Krishna. Buddhistata yogam avapyasi. When your mind is no longer disturbed by the flowery word of the Vedas, and when it's fixed in the trance of self-realization, samadhi, then you will have attained the divine consciousness. And then Arjuna asks, okay, that's very nice. How can I recognize somebody who has got that consciousness? And we'll just say that next verse. O Krishna, What are the symptoms of somebody who is in transcendence? And then Krishna answers, O Partha, when a man gives up all varieties of desire for sense gratification, which arise from mental concoction, and when his mind, thus purified, finds satisfaction in the self alone, that means in his own self and the Supreme Self, then he is in pure transcendental consciousness. So the yogi, he is getting pleasure within, with his relationship and realization and service to Krishna, his loving service to Krishna. Like we say, bhakti-yoga means to offer the heart, priti purvakam. We're not meditating on serving Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan in an impersonal way. We are conjuring up affection. Just like in this world, the parents have natural affection for the children, right? So it's natural, if we understand Krishna a little by hearing from Guru, Sadhu and Shastra, that we'll have affection, and that will blossom into bhava. So that is the sign of the sadhu. He is not chasing dhanam, janam, sundarin. He is wanting to please Guru and Krishna. So this is Buddhi Yoga. And so Krishna has already actually explained it nicely. But Arjuna, he is making us, he is saying, oh, I don't really understand what all this Buddhi Yoga is. You said, give up karma and perform buddhi, be intelligent. But what does it all mean? Well, it's actually very simple. Krishna's already explained. The point is, you have your duty, Arjuna, but now perform it as an offering to me. Simple as that, right? So that it will be the point, karma yoga. And then the next chapter will be, fourth is Jnana Yoga. There's so much spiritual knowledge there. And then the fifth chapter is Naiskamya Yoga. Because by knowledge, spiritual knowledge, becoming nicely fixed in good spiritual knowledge, then one automatically becomes materially unmotivated. So that is the progression of these three chapters, 3, 4 and 5. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So, very simple and clear actually. Instead of being a servant of the senses with selfish goals, we become servant of Supreme Spirit with selfless goals. So, any question? Comment? Yes?
So, Keshi, thank you for the nice.
Yeah.
And that selfless mood is natural. And it is maintained naturally when we realize Krishna. Jivera Swarupoi Nichera Krishna Das. So by hearing from Guru, Sadhu and Shastra, we get that attachment. Yes, please.
So in this starting, we can see that there are usually two duties for a person is Nitya duties and Naimittik. Nitya is the eternal relationship with Krishna, so in relationship to that. And then Naimittik, which means your social order in which you are. So Buddhi Yoga means to neglect neither, but to do them as your duty, taking responsibility, and then offer them to the Lord.
Yes,
for his satisfaction.
particularly at the beginning stages. This is the point. In the 13th chapter, it starts with the items of knowledge. Krishna gives a list. And in that list, he says, detachment from the general mass of people, retiring to a lonely place to perform bhajan. And we see that in the 5th canto. Lord Rishabdev, he did that, right? Before retiring to the forest to perform bhajan, he instructed his sons, and then he left for the forest. And we also see in the Pandavas, right, after the battle, they took over the rulership, but then when they saw Kali Yuga was coming, they retired. There's a chapter, right, the Pandavas retired timely. And we also see that Mahaprabhu, he retired from married life, even though he had a devoted mother and Vishnu Priya, but he wanted to perform bhava, and he was giving an example. So that renunciation of one's material tendencies and skills, that should be done at the right time. Prabhupada, if you remember, I'm sure you do, that should be done not at an immature stage. In the Jaiva Dharma, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that one should not take sannyas before bhava bhakti. The sadhaka shouldn't take sannyas. The sadhaka should perform his material duties, and then when he attains real bhava, he will naturally want to renounce. And therefore that is explained in the Bhagavad-Gita, in chapters 29 of the 11th canto of Bhagavatam. Krishna tells Uddhava, okay, now, Uddhava has been to Vrindavan carrying a message to the gopis, and he saw the incredible devotion of the Brijvasis, how they were completely, in a trance, remembering Krishna. So then Krishna told him, now Uddhava, you are my dear friend and devotee. Now if you want to go to the next stage, you have to completely give up any material, or not completely, because Krishna says you cannot maintain your body without work. You have to bathe it, you have to clean it, you have to feed it, but you have to minimize. And the example for that is the 6 Goswamis. But they are of course on that sublime position. But we should never forget that Rupa Raghunatha Pade, we are followers of the path chalked out by Rupa Raghunath and Raghunath Goswami. But if we try to artificially follow that austerity, like there's a story in Mayapur, before Mayapur was developed, there was a devotee, he came to Prabhupada, and he said, and they were, fixing up Mayapur. But this devotee, he was a little bit, he wasn't clear in his mind, let's say that. So he came to Prabhupada, he said, I don't want to do all this activity. I want to just chant. So Prabhupada said, okay. And all the big managers were saying, oh, Prabhupada, he's a little bit, unusual mentally. And so that devotee, he used to climb in a tree, and he'd sit in a branch, and he'd chant, like Haridas Thakur. He'd be chanting. And then after about a week, he came down from the tree. So Prabhupada said, okay, he didn't say, you're not right. Let him find out for himself. So the point is that we will find out. So water finds its own level, right? So we should, by association with good devotees, sadhu sangha, we should discuss our propensities, our possibilities, and we should engage accordingly. Right? If we try to imitate Haridas Thakur, that will, be a mistake. But at the same time, we should be trying to improve our sadhana. Therefore, Prabhupada said 16 rounds is minimum. And on Ekadashi, we should try to chant 64 rounds. And then maybe in Kartik, we can take a vow like, I'll not eat grain. I'll only eat Ekadashi, foodstuffs for all Kartik, and I'll try to chant 1 lakh name for 1 month, right? So we can push that bit, but we shouldn't, be like Raghunath Das and Rupa Goswami and think, I'll just do Madhukari and I'll drink ½ liter of chach every day. Very noble, but it won't work. So sadhana bhakti means buddhi yoga, right? That's what Krishna is saying it, right? We should be intelligent. We should look in the mirror and we should think, now, what Bhakti Vinod actually in Chaitanya Shikshamrita, he says something very interesting. He said the devotee, he should make a list of all his unwanted things. And then one by one, without being discouraged, he should try to cross them off. I drink Coca-Cola. Right? Make a list of all little things, right? We all know we should only eat prasadam. So, I like to eat shortbread from the shop. I like to eat this. I'm overeating. So therefore we should work on all these things one by one without being discouraged. We shouldn't think, I'm not at the standard. I'm fallen. Therefore I should go away. Yesterday I only chanted 14 rounds. I'm a demon. No. We should be easy on ourselves. We shouldn't discourage ourselves. We should think, yes. But we should remember that 16 rounds is 1,000,000 times better than 15 rounds. Why? Because Prabhupada said, so that's Guru's order. But still, if we chant 15 rounds, and we went to Mangalarti and Guru Puja and we chanted there, it's not that we should think, I've fallen from the standard. We shouldn't beat ourselves over the head. We should think, I'm going to succeed, now I'm overcome, and by practice I'll get better. Just like if you're learning the harmonium, you want to learn kirtan, you can't play very nicely at the beginning. But you don't think, now I'm going to give up. You think, I'm going to learn simple melodies. Then I'm going to learn a better melody. And I'm going to ask a devotee to watch how I play and help me improve. Right? You don't think, I'm not as good as Ayendra. Ayendra was so good at kirtan. Now I shan't ever do kirtan again. You understand? Because then that's a kind of, you're trying, actually, underneath that, you're actually finding a way to stop. You're fooling yourself. You're looking for an excuse, So you have to be careful of the mind. The mind is very tricky. So, like that. But that's buddhi, right? That's buddhi. That means intelligent, right? I only chanted 14 rounds today. Tomorrow, 16. And if I get a chance, I'll make up the 2 I missed. You see? But if I don't make up the two I missed, I still keep chanting. It's not that Krishna is looking for the faults in his devotee. You see? Krishna, bhakti means to offer love to Krishna, loving affection. That's the final position. When we see the deities, the darshan, we say, Radha, Krishna, Shyam Sundar, you look very beautiful today. Nice to see you. Huh? Just like when you meet a friend, you feel love in your heart. Oh, my old friend, how are you? Take me to the MVT and buy me a meal. I'll buy you a meal. So we should cultivate that in relationship to Krishna, right? That affectionate mood. And that is the center of all bhakti. You understand? Like Madhavendra Puri, there's that part in the Chaitanya Charitamrita where he says, now I take off my Janoi, my Brahmin thread, I sadhana, all this, now I just remain in Vrindavan and think of Radha Shyam Sundar. Huh? In complete ecstatic love, right? So that's also in the Nectar of Devotion, that an advanced devotee is often not seen to be performing the rules of sadhana very well. Dhruva Maharaj, after he was established, he went through the universe, right, to visit saintly persons, and one was an Avaduta, right? You know that story in the Bhagavatam? And he was following the dharma of a python. He was just, right? You know the Bhagavatam? Huh? Yeah. Was it Prahlad Maharaj? Yeah, so he was just lying there and he was saying, well, what food comes in my mouth, that's enough for me. And it was Prahlad. He said, well, you're very stout. So Krishna was arranging everything. But that is the Paramahansa platform. And it's not to be imitated, you see. One should just go at the natural pace. So that's buddhi. That means intelligence, right? It's not intelligent to imagine you're a concert pianist when you're not. Right? You should go step by step. And by practice, your harmonium, your bhajan will improve naturally. Right? That's the first word in the universe. Lord Brahma, he awakened to consciousness, and what is my source? What is this creation? And he heard what? Tapa. Tapa means austerity. So austerity means you control your senses for a higher goal. And how do you control this, the senses? By the buddhi. Right? Now the problem in the material conditioning is the buddhi is influenced by a hankara. It's your buddhi is thinking, I'm the body, and the things related to my body, that is me and mine. So buddhi yoga means that it starts with the understanding, I'm not the body, I'm soul. And all this paraphernalia, this belongs to Krishna. Vasudeva Savamiti. So, Sa Mahatma. And Krishna, what does he say? He says, Aham sarvasya pravavo matak sarvam pravartati iti matva bhajanti mam buddha bhava sama. One, I am the source of everything material and spiritual. Everything comes from me. Those who know this, they perform my bhajan. They worship me. So at the beginning of buddhi, we want to study Gita, we want to understand Vasudeva Savamiti, we want to understand the position of Krishna philosophically, and then we become liberated, and then Pritipurvakam. You become liberated, and then naturally you'll get devotion, because it's in the heart. So, does that answer your question?
Yes.
Yeah, go on.
But one thing it also necessitates the words of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Jivira Sarupa Krishnera Nityada.
Yeah, Krishnera Nityada. I'm always mispronouncing that one. What did I say? Krishnera Nityadas, of Krishna, eternal servant. Jivera Swurupoi, Krishnera Nityadas, not Nityera Krishna das. Okay. I stand corrected. Krishnera, of Krishna, eternal servant.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you so much for your class. I want to ask you, how can be a devotee who is working, for example, in a company or which is having a job which is not connected to Krishna consciousness, or which he's working with people which are not really Krishna consciousness? How can he be inspired to see everything related to Krishna
in the Nectar of Instruction, Rupa Goswami gives 6 things that are good for advancement, right? Enthusiasm, patience, and so on. And the last 2 are Sato Vrite Tat Tat Kama Pravartanat. Sato Vrite means that the activity we're performing, it should be pious activity, it shouldn't be sinful, right? So if we're working in a slaughterhouse, I'm not saying this is the case, we can't offer that to Krishna. We have to disengage from sinful activity. Kali Yuga is full of these terrible things. We have to disengage from impious activity, and we have to find an activity that is not sinful. Sato Vrite. And then the last one is Tat Tat Karma Pravartanat. And that means that a devotee should follow the rules and regulations. So, if the activity you didn't specify is impious, sinful, then we should disengage from that. And then, if it is a good contribution, it may be just being a tom-tom driver for the pilgrims. That's a very pious activity, right? Driving around the pilgrims, right? And then we should tat tat karma pravartana. We should follow sadhaka. We should then become vegetarian, and we should offer our foodstuffs and so on. But if the activities are sinful, if the, working in an abortion clinic or being a bank robber, you can't be a bank robber for Krishna. You understand? So one should find a pious activity, a good activity. Arjuna was going to kill on behalf of Krishna, but it was to remove bad people from the rulership. Duryodhana, his expansion of Kali. Does that answer your question?
Yes, in this case, it's not simple activity. She's just working in something what the people is not very attracted to speak about spiritual topics. So she feeling like her activity is not really inspiring her to be uplifted.
Well, then she should combine sadhana, morning and evening and noontime. She should combine good sadhana with her activity. And she should not, it's one of the offenses against the holy name, to explain the glories of Krishna, the holy name, to those that are sinful or who are not favorable. So we should search for good association, but if we cannot find it perfectly, which is often the case in the material world, still we should continue on, and Krishna will help. Krishna will guide us. We should have faith in Krishna. But if it is completely negative, then find another job or something like that. You understand? But you should use the caterpillar technique. You know what the caterpillar technique is? Well, the caterpillar goes from one leaf to the next leaf. So first he holds the next leaf, then he lets go of the old leaf. The caterpillar doesn't jump. It's on one leaf, holds another leaf, then releases the first leaf. So one should use intelligence. But there's that story of, that story of the woman of easy virtue and the Brahmin on both sides, on the side of the street. There was a lady, she was, a prostitute, but she was always praying, "Oh Govinda, please, somehow or other I'm in this occupation." On the other side of the road, there was the house of a Brahmin, and he knew everything, but he was proud, and pride makes the heart stone-like. So he was condemning this prostitute. So who went back to Godhead? Tell me. The prostitute, because she had the bhava. "Oh Govinda, Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram, I'm fallen down, please help me." So we have to cultivate that dependence on Krishna. Do you understand? We have to use intelligence. I worked in the material world when I needed money. I worked in Japan, editing in a university, editing scientific papers for these big professors. And the secretary there, they used to ask me questions. One time they were asking, "Oh, money is the root of all evil, So I said, no, money's not good or bad. It's how you use money is good or bad." So they used to call me the guru. They didn't know I never told them I was a devotee or I was chanting, right? So you can teach people basic ideas without, but what you'll usually find is, if people start to chant, they become devotees. If you just give people philosophy, they think, "Oh, you've got your idea, you've got your opinion. Yeah, I'm a Christian, you're a Hare Krishna. Very nice. I'm a liberal, you can be a Hare Krishna. I'm a Muslim, very nice, okay." But if somebody starts to chant the mantra, acts, and then they start to think, they come back and they say, "Well, what does it mean you're not the body?" You see? So if you want to make good association, you encourage people to chant. And the mantra will act. Krishna will act in the heart. The philosophy people, they don't understand the relevance. Most people don't. Just like the professors in the university. sometimes they're Oriental professors, and they're studying Sufism, they're studying Muslim scriptures, Jewish scriptures, Hindu scriptures, they're studying everything. But they're never become devotees, right? Because they're just studying. But if they chant, therefore it is said in the Shastra, if you want to enjoy this material world, don't go to the bank of the Jamuna, where Shyam Sundar is standing in the moonlight, playing the flute, attracting everyone in the material world to Golok. Yes, thank you. Don't. And so, in the Shastra, in the Leela Shastra, it is explained that Krishna's flute sound is represented in the material world by the Maha Mantra. So if you want to enjoy material life, don't chant Hare Krishna. It's very dangerous. Because you'll start to think, I'll get a Bhagavad-Gita and see what it says, right? So you should warn people, I'm a devotee. Now if you start chanting, it's very dangerous. And you'll find that people think, I'm not scared of anything. I'm going to chant. Next week they'll be chanting 16 rounds. So this is just like Prabhupada. What did he do? He went to Tompkins Square Park, right? He sat down. He didn't even have a madanga. He just had a tom-tom drum, right? And he chanted. And people started chanting. And so they became devotees, right? So we have a very dangerous weapon, the Maha Mantra. It is very dangerous. Look what it's done to me. Look what it's done to Mahaprabhu. It's made him grow a beard and come to Vrindavan. Look what it's done to you. What it's done to Mataji. It's very dangerous. Don't chant. Or you will give up your whole material life. It should be warning, like on the cigarette packet. We give our mantra card, and at the bottom it should say, be careful of this mantra. It is dangerous. Right? And also, if she is doing good sadhana, people will pick up the vibration, you know, because there's subtle effect. People relate to one another in a subtle level. So if you do good sadhana, people become interested. But sometimes the demoniac people will become, I don't like this person. Sometimes I have that experience. Demoniac people think, I don't like this person. He's vegetarian. Right? Vegetarian? What's wrong with you? So the Rakshasa. So Krishna says, the Rakshasa, the demon, Upeksha. Upeksha. Just be neutral. Don't talk, avoid that person. Leave them to the Maya Shakti. But most people are Balisha, they're innocent human beings. Okay? So you can advise your friend in that way, you know? Put your faith in Krishna and carry on. Carry on with your sadhana and keep your job if you need the money and so on.
Even when the job is like, for example, you are working 10 hours a day, 11 hours
Oh, yeah, well, yeah.
morning to chant, you have to chant like late.
Yeah.
You have to adjust something.
Well, that's what I used to do in Japan. I would finish work late and then I'd go for a long japa walk in the middle of the night. In Japan, there's no criminals. You can go sit in the park and chant at 12 o'clock. So yes, well then don't do a 10-hour shift. Do 8-hour shift. Right? And don't get a job that you're working nights and then days next week. Get a job that's suitable for your Krishna consciousness, you see. Right? That's the austerity, you see. We're in the material world, so there's always some kind of inebriety. But if we have our mind on the goal, we'll be successful. Because Krishna will reciprocate. So we put our faith in Krishna.
He guides you and makes all the arrangements.
Yeah, Krishna reciprocate with his devotee. Not just with his Paramahamsa, but with everyone. Because everyone is part of the absolute truth. Everyone is important to Krishna. Everyone. Krishna doesn't have chosen people like these bogus religion. Samaham sarvabhuteshu is equal to everyone. But if you render service, he becomes your friend. Okay? We'll finish on that point. And whatever happens, regularly chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.